For calling my husband a disgrace after he said my miscarriage ruined his birthday? Yesterday afternoon, I experienced a miscarriage. It was my first, and this baby was so deeply wanted. Right now, everything feels overwhelming, and I'm still sobbing as I try to share my story. My husband turned 27 yesterday, and I was 8 weeks pregnant with our second child. Just 2 days before, we had seen the beautiful flicker of a heartbeat on the screen. Then, in a matter of hours, everything changed. While playing with our 2-year-old, I felt a pressure in my lower abdomen, and soon after, I noticed bleeding. I immediately reached out to my husband to let him know what was happening. I asked him to come home, explaining that I felt it was urgent. I was in pain, lightheaded, and our child was unattended. With no family or friends nearby, I really needed him. Instead of rushing home, he took nearly an hour to return because he stopped to pick up some beers. By the time he arrived, I was feeling very poorly, and he ended up taking me to the hospital. After being discharged almost 8 hours later, I mentioned that I wasn't feeling up to making his favorite dinner. He muttered something about how my situation had ruined his birthday. It stung deeply. He didn't even stop for takeaway. He just drove us home, put our son to bed. And I went to bed feeling utterly alone. This morning, he left for work without saying a word, and he hasn't reached out all day. When he got home, he gave me the silent treatment. I tried to talk to him, but he ignored me, and in a moment of frustration, I called him a disgrace. He slammed the bedroom door and locked me out. His mother messaged me, suggesting I be patient because he's also grieving. But why isn't he talking to me? I feel emotionally neglected after everything my body has been through. I know my miscarriage was inconvenient for him, but I can't help but wonder if it's crazy to think about divorce. AITH for calling him a disgrace.
I just got home from an absolutely humiliating third date and don't know how to feel. I'm in my late 20s with very little dating experience, and she's in her mid-30s. We matched on Tinder a bit over a month ago and had only been on 2 dates since then, due to her living 2 hours away. I was willing to make it work, especially since I plan to move to her city next year. For both dates, we met at a park and ended up at a cafe. So it seemed like she enjoyed my company. We had plenty to talk about and shared a lot of interests. I found her really cute. Now, about that third date, she invited me over for a movie night and even offered me her couch for the night. Her bed was off limits for now, which I completely understood since we hadn't even kissed yet. When I arrived, I hugged her hello and sat down on her couch. As we talked, I noticed her yawning a lot and acting a bit distant. She apologized, saying she felt tired for some reason. We started the movie, a rom-com, and I offered her some chocolate I brought, but she declined. Then she laid down on the far corner of the couch, covering herself with a blanket, which felt like she was distancing herself from me. At some point, I decided to make a move and tried to scoot closer, but she told me, rather harshly, to back off because I was squeezing her into the corner. Looking back, I should have left then. Later, I attempted the classic arm-on-shoulder move, but I ended up tugging on her hair instead. All I got was a sharp ouch, don't do that please. Throughout the movie, she kept complaining about her neighbors walking through the hallway, which I thought was a bit ridiculous since I barely noticed it until she pointed it out. When the movie ended, she abruptly got up and went over to her flatmate, giggling. I felt terrible, knowing they were likely making fun of me. When she returned, I tried to talk about her record collection, hoping to connect over our shared favorite artists. But she coldly replied, there's nothing interesting for you in there anyway. Plus, my flatmate is feeling sick. I did find some interesting records, but she just kept being rude. After a bit of awkward silence, she finally said this was all too much for her and that the date was over. She added that I shouldn't take it personally because it was her and not me. I packed my things, feeling bummed about how it went, still hugged her goodbye and left. Now I'm here, feeling utterly humiliated, wondering if I did something wrong. Was I too nervous? Should I have dressed nicer than a hoodie? Should I have brought flowers or a small gift? Did I wait too long to make a move? From the moment I arrived, I felt like an unwanted guest and was treated poorly. I wish I had never experienced this.
IATA for giving my son's girlfriend a budget for the dinner she's making? My son, who recently graduated university, moved back home after finding a job in the area. He had been in a long-distance relationship with his girlfriend, Carmela, who was living with her mom. When she needed to move out, my son invited her to stay with us until he could get his own place in January. I agreed, believing it was important to support them both. Carmela moved in after Halloween and quickly became a joy in our home. She offered to cook dinner most nights, which I appreciated. I encouraged her since she's a good cook. At first, I didn't mind giving her my card for groceries, but soon she started wanting to buy more expensive items like steak and seafood. After a few weeks, I asked her to get everything she needed in one trip. But when she mentioned wanting to make steak for dinner, I had to say no. I explained that we couldn't afford to have steak for everyone and suggested a budget for her grocery trips. Carmela looked upset, and my son seemed offended. Later, he told me I embarrassed her for trying to be nice. I expressed my gratitude for her cooking, but reminded him that it was my money. He argued that they would only be here a few more weeks and asked if I could just make her happy. Now I'm left wondering if I was wrong for wanting to set a budget.
My boyfriend called the cops because of the content of my book, but he wants me to think it was a mistake. How do we move past this? I've been working on my book trilogy for years, since I was 16. The story is about how I met my boyfriend, John. We connected in a writing class 3 years ago. John studied journalism and creative writing in university, but he's not working in either field now. I never intended to make money from my writing, but I do. It's not my main profession, though. So here's where things get complicated. I asked John to read certain chapters and give me feedback, since my usual beta reader was unavailable. Without giving too much away, the main character gets kidnapped and experimented on. I wrote it to be grotesque and horrifying, and I warned John about this before he started reading. He assured me he'd be fine. The next morning I was shocked when an officer came to my door for a welfare check. I was humiliated. I explained everything to the officer, who checked the house and eventually apologized for the misunderstanding. When I confronted John, he apologized and claimed the story got in his head. He insisted it was a mistake, and that I should understand how someone could get worried given the content. He wants me to just drop it. I'm so embarrassed, and honestly creeped out. My writing is dark, but I've been publishing for years, and he's read my work before. This wasn't even the darkest thing I've written. I can't understand why he would call the cops if he was so disturbed, yet still act all lovey-dovey at my place. Could this really be an honest mistake? How do we move forward from here? Update. My 24F husband, 26 man, left me passed out on the floor while sick, and then got mad at me the next morning. I see him different now. Hi, so I'm still alive. I've had a surprising amount of people reach out to me over the past couple of weeks, and it's been really kind of you all to care. I went to the hospital after my fainting episode. Thankfully, nothing serious came up, but the doctor did mention I have high blood pressure and recommended I see a cardiologist. I still have a month to wait for that appointment. When my husband got home from work, he acted like everything was normal. I wanted to see if he would ask about my fainting, but he didn't. So after we settled the baby for the night, I asked him why I woke up alone in his office. He got instantly angry and seemed annoyed that I even brought it up. He said I was being confusing and that I should have told him what I wanted him to do. When I mentioned my hospital visit, he dismissed it, saying going there was a bit much. I told him the doctor said my symptoms were likely caused by stress, and he exploded, blaming me for my own health issues. Then he shut himself in the bedroom, leaving me to clean up after dinner alone. I decided to take a break and went to the couch to watch a movie. Suddenly, he came out acting friendly and flirty, trying to lay with me and asking what I was doing. When I didn't respond the way he wanted, he got angry and stormed off, locking me out of the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to him slamming things around in the kitchen, complaining about how I couldn't even clean properly. I just went back to the bedroom and tried to sleep, but he kept making noise. He later complained about being hungry because I hadn't made him breakfast or lunch. I decided to take a break for myself. I didn't work or focus on the house. I just spent time with our baby, going to the park and the library. I talked to my mother-in-law about my health, but she only seemed concerned about how my husband would handle it. That's when I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I brought home pizza for dinner and he was clearly upset. I tried to ignore the tension as he cleaned the kitchen loudly, muttering under his breath. After putting our daughter to bed, he confronted me aggressively, saying I was getting lazy and that he wouldn't accept my lack of effort, reminding him that I cook, clean, manage our child, and work all at once. Things escalated quickly, and he started throwing dishes at me. When he ran out of things to throw, he physically attacked me. I called the police, and our baby woke up from the chaos. When my husband returned, he tried to blame me for everything, even claiming the bruises on my neck were self-inflicted. I'm still trying to process everything. It all happened so fast. Sometimes, I wonder if I had just kept quiet, would our relationship still be intact? I have my first therapy session scheduled for next Tuesday, and I plan to talk about everything then. My husband is staying at his mom's, and I'm at my grandmother's for now, almost done moving my things out of our apartment. We have a temporary restraining order, and the official hearing is tomorrow morning. Honestly, I'm scared. I haven't seen him since that night, and my daughter keeps asking where her dad is. I don't know what to tell her. I feel so numb to it all. I could share more, but it already feels like so much. I don't want to cry again. I've reread this and feel like I sound overly emotional. I promise I don't sound like this in person. I wanted to add that I don't know if I would have called the police if I hadn't posted before. This was the scariest thing he's done, but there have been other troubling moments. When I originally posted, it was more of a vent. Your kind responses gave me the push I needed. I only have my little sister and my grandmother for support, but I can't share the details with my grandmother since she's too sensitive. My dad was an alcoholic and passed away in an accident, and my mom left us for someone else. I don't know how she's doing, but she treated us poorly, so I don't care much. Thank you all for your kindness. I don't even know what to say.
My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 months now, and overall, our relationship has been wonderful. We're currently long distance, but he plans to move to my town next year. He's been a great support for me, especially as I've navigated some personal challenges these past few months. But recently, something shifted. I was spending Thanksgiving with my sister and her family, while he was alone in his state. I kept texting him throughout the day, trying to share some companionship and love. Then, out of the blue, he started asking, "Who is this?" He insisted it wasn't me talking, which was so confusing. He spiraled into wild accusations, suggesting I was my sister or that my ex had taken control of my phone. He said it was breaking his heart and that he was genuinely worried about me. I tried to reassure him, explaining I was just busy with family activities. But he wouldn't let it go. When he called that night, I spoke softly, trying to maintain calmness despite the lack of privacy around me. I answered all his questions, but he kept saying I sounded robotic, even claiming I had an AI voice. Nothing I said seemed to ease his concerns. Eventually, he said he wouldn't talk to me until he figured things out. I spent the whole day wondering what was happening. We both questioned if we had taken anything that could change our behavior. And we both denied it. I felt a mix of worry and confusion, wondering if he was experiencing something serious. I've known him for 13 years, and I've never seen him act like this before. Afterward, I spoke with his brother, who is a doctor. We agreed that he needs a health evaluation, but it wasn't an emergency. Thankfully, I had a constructive conversation with my boyfriend later. He apologized for his exaggerated reactions and explained that his worries stemmed from my different texting style that day and some recent scams I had encountered. He realized it was truly me all along. Moving forward, I'll stay vigilant about any signs of controlling behavior or other potential issues. He promised to prioritize his healthcare, especially regarding existing concerns about Parkinson's. I'll encourage him to pursue further testing for other possible conditions. I appreciate the support and advice from those who reached out. It means a lot as we navigate this together.
AITA for refusing to give up my front row spot at a concert to someone claiming to be disabled? A couple of weeks ago, I traveled to another country to see an artist I've adored for 6 years. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, and I had been waiting months for it. I sacrificed a lot, both financially and mentally, to make it happen. Since it was my first and probably only time seeing them, I went all out. I bought general admission tickets and arrived at the venue at 5 a.m., even though the doors wouldn't open until later that evening. I waited all day in the freezing cold, hungry and dehydrated, but it was worth it. When the doors finally opened, I secured a front row spot right up against the stage. This was my dream spot. Then, a guy behind me tapped me on the shoulder and told me he was disabled. He mentioned that the venue was supposed to let disabled attendees in early, but they hadn't. He asked if I could give him my spot at the barricade. Here's the thing. I know this venue is very accommodating for disabled attendees. I have friends with disabilities who've gone to shows here, and the staff always ensures they get to the front row safely during a designated time. Now, I'm quite short, and this guy was extremely tall. If I gave him my spot, I wouldn't be able to see anything at all because he would completely block my view. I would have been willing to move if he weren't so tall, or if I could still see from the second row. But in this case, I knew I'd lose the view I had waited more than 10 hours for. I tried to compromise. I pointed out that the right side of the barricade was still open and suggested he go there. Since he was so tall, he'd still have a great view and could hold on to the rail for support. However, he refused, insisting that the view wasn't as good as where I was. As we talked, that section filled up, and he became more insistent. He said he'd have a hard time if he couldn't take my spot. At this point, I got frustrated and explained a few things. If his disability was that serious, he should be in the accessible section, which is specifically designed for attendees with disabilities. If he insisted on being in the standing section, he should have brought a support aid, like a cane. I'd seen someone kneel by with one. I also mentioned that if he spoke to security, they could escort him to the front row disabled seating, which has a fantastic view and is much more accommodating. After hearing this, he called me names and left. I feel like he just wanted my spot and wasn't being truthful. The venue offers several options for disabled attendees, and I tried to direct him to alternatives. I feel bad for saying no, but I don't think it was fair for him to ask me to sacrifice my entire experience. So, AITA. Update. I'm 28 and I felt trapped at my parents' place. I didn't know what to do. Thank you to everyone for your concerns and suggestions. Your support gave me hope. I hesitated to update sooner because I worried my brother might come across this post. In short, I ran away from home. I still wonder if my decision was too extreme, but thinking about it too much would drive me crazy. A couple of friends helped me plan my escape. They arranged for a friend, someone I had only met recently, to pick me up in a town 3 hours away. I was constantly surrounded by family, so I had to be careful. I snuck out under the pretense of going for a walk, knowing they would likely realize I was gone soon. My friend was waiting nearby and he drove me to the airport. It was perfect timing, as I didn't want to risk any delays. I was focused on getting out of the country as quickly as possible, even without a clear plan for reaching Australia. I couldn't have done this without the immense support from my friends, who worked hard to keep everything under wraps. I've received messages and calls from my family since I left. I simply told them it was my decision and shared a few reasons why. I expressed my willingness to work on our relationship if they could accept my choices. I know there has been some backlash regarding my desire to maintain a connection, but I want to clarify that it doesn't mean I'll return to India anytime soon. Trust needs to be rebuilt, and any communication will be limited to apologies for now. My partner and I agree that ending a relationship that has been part of my life for 28 years is a significant step. Now that I've escaped, my family has lost much of the control they once had. We want to show some level of mercy, but that doesn't mean meeting them in person. I'll be speaking with a therapist soon. Since I left, I haven't been sleeping well, often dreaming that I'm still trapped. This has been a huge ordeal, and I know I need professional help. We also plan to notify the Indian embassy that I left of my own will, in case any complaints arise from my family. Thank you again to everyone for your support. Update: Wikta, if I took over planning my own funeral from my very religious parents. Hello everyone. First of all, thank you all for the kind words, support, and love that everyone has offered. These weeks have been the most difficult I have ever experienced. It is with great sadness that I share that my beautiful and cat-crazy wife has passed away. I wish I could say more, but I need to keep this brief. She left a note for all of you, and I want to share her words verbatim. She truly loved everyone and was so happy after her first post. Reddit: if you're reading this, I am no longer here. It feels a bit strange to be writing this. I have to take frequent breaks as I tire easily now. My husband offered to write these words, but I wanted my last words to be mine. Long story short, we talked to my parents. Many asked why my husband wasn't planning the funeral and why my parents were taking control. Honestly, they didn't take the news of my passing well. Their way of coping was to try and take charge of what they could. I understand that. They had already prepaid for a large portion of the service, and it was a tough situation for them. We talked it out, and somehow we reached a compromise. There were a lot of tears, hugs, and surprisingly, laughs. They admitted they had been losing their faith with everything that happened, and their way to find it again was to take control and guide me into the afterlife. But that wasn't my wish. I explained that I wanted to spend my last weeks in peace, not in the turmoil they were creating. While many say funerals are for the living, and that's true, I believe they should honor the person as they truly were, not as anyone else wanted them to be. My parents seemed to understand that. They weren't on board with the idea of party favors, which was a bit disappointing. But now that is all said and done, thank you everyone. I was blown away by your responses. I was moved to tears, and I wish I could meet every single one of you. Take it one day at a time and truly enjoy yourself. You only get one life, unless you're someone who has survived death. Then you're a hero with a few lives to spare. I love you all. I'm resting easy now. This disease was tough, and I'm happy to be free from it. Remember to laugh, love, cry, and embrace the ups and downs of life. I need to go now. I'm going to snuggle my husband and my cats. Keep it real, Reddit. Love you all. Update: a girl, 21F. I, 19M, really invited me over to her place to smoke together tonight, and I'm kind of panicking. First off, wow. I didn't realize people were so invested in my post. Thanks for all the kind responses and good advice. I got a bunch of messages asking for an update, so here it is. I went over to her place last night, but first I stopped for some snacks. I picked up fresh fruit and chocolate, my favorites when I'm stoned. I figured I couldn't go wrong with that. When I arrived, I was pretty nervous, but I tried to stay calm. She opened the door and looked absolutely stunning. We hugged for a while, which was new for me, but I wasn't complaining. We decided to start with a bowl right away, and it really helped ease my nerves. We listened to music and had a great conversation. It felt nice to really get to know her. We shared 2 joints and got really high, then put on The Office. Somehow. We both managed to avoid that show until now. As we relaxed, she rested her head on my shoulder. I wrapped my arm around her and, out of the blue, told her that I really liked her. The moment felt right, and I felt like I needed to say it now or I might never do it. She looked up at me with those beautiful eyes and said, "I like you more." I was filled with euphoria. I wasn't prepared for this. Then she told me to kiss her, and we made out for a good while, both lost in the moment. She confessed she had a crush on me since we met, and thought I wasn't interested. Apparently she'd been giving me hints for a long time, but I missed every single one. Eventually we ended up in her bedroom. At first, we just cuddled and touched each other, which felt really good. After a while, we started fooling around a bit. I didn't have a condom, and she had to find one, which took some time. So, we smoked some more and went back for more action. But the condom was too tight and snapped almost immediately. That was the only one she had, so we went back to cuddling. But after a few minutes, we both couldn't resist anymore and decided to go for it anyway. I know it was a bit reckless, but she was on birth control and hadn't been seeing anyone lately. I slept at her place and just returned home about an hour ago. We didn't have any classes today, so we just chilled and enjoyed each other's company. I felt so comfortable around her, and I can't believe how great I feel. We're going out for dinner on Friday, and I might come over again before that. So I guess we're dating now. I could still use advice on how to navigate this, as I've never been in a relationship before. Thanks for all the support, everyone. It really helped me out. I wish everyone success with their own dating adventures. You will find someone.